A lot like the Michael Jackson situation, which unfortunately, when I went to see the Strings Attached tour with Weird Al, he didn't play any of the Michael Jackson songs,
Oh, that's too bad.
which it's really unfortunate because a lot of those were the big hits that he had that kind of made him big in the first place.
Right.
Really, like the Springboard was his parody of Another One Bites the Dust. But and a lot of that had to do with Dr. Demento putting him on a show and letting him perform that.
Yeah.
But like when I went to see the Strings Attached tour, it was at that moment where there was a documentary that's out, and it was like really demonizing Michael Jackson.
Is that why you avoided it, you think?
Yeah, I think so. And so the general demeanor of people whenever you bring up Michael Jackson was this idea that he's a monster of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the current narrative on there.
Okay.
And today we're going to take that lesson and we're going to apply it to this situation.
Okay.
And I'm going to do my best not to show too much bias one way or another. But I am going to give details that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And I know a lot of details about this, more than most people. Now, I've got one detail that when I tell you this part, you and I are going to mute our microphones, but I want you to unmute for your reaction, but don't say what I told you, okay?
Okay.
I don't want people knowing this,
Okay.
but I found out something you are not going to believe.
Okay.
Bobby,
Yes.
the Bob Boss. How are you?
Doing all right. How
Do
you
you
doing?
feel like crying today?
Not at the moment.
More specifically, do you feel like crying on camera?
No.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever felt like that.
It's an unusual thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I have a meme for you to look at,
Okay.
and it's going to be kind of blurry.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, people, things you put on Snapchat, they're not actually deleted.
No, nothing's deleted once it hits the internet. Who sets up a camera to cry in front of it? There's a little speech bubble that says that. And then there's some text that says, "It's my birthday and I'll cry if I want to." And there's a young lady laying in bed, just kind of looking sad.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you've got this this woman. She's in bed. She's crying. She looks like she's crying. It's hard to tell because it's blurry.
Yeah.
She's responding to a comment.
Yeah,
and
the speech bubble, yeah.
Yeah. So again, things you put on Snapchat, they're not, even if you think like, even if you don't see that little bubble come up that says somebody screenshotted it, even if you don't see that,
Oh, yeah, just assume...
it still exists.
Yeah,
It
if
still
you put
exists.
it out there, just assume that somebody somewhere has got a copy of it, and it's never really gone.
It's forever.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some shit person at every company who's going to leak stuff. So
Oh, yeah.
don't even assume. Now, here is an important lesson for everyone. You don't want to make rash judgments about people.
No.
You don't want to assume that you know everything about anyone in any case, because doing this podcast especially, we've learned that you can get the wrong impression about people.
Oh, easily, yeah.
And that's how I feel about this entire situation
Okay.
so far, because it is still currently going down.
Okay.
But I thought I'd add some context and some details, and I am going to include some details that are not flattering for some subjects, but that doesn't mean I'm trying to demonize them.
Right, okay.
We all do dumb things, but
Constantly.
but today with the internet, everything that we do is recorded, you know? And also, if you talk to the right people, you're going to learn some more stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And if you spend all day, every day sleuthing the internet, you're going to find some things that other people do not know. And there's something really confusing toward the end of this too. And I can't quite figure out where this disconnect happened, but there's somebody directly involved in this situation who doesn't seem to know something that I found out. So I don't know if there was no communication between them or what. Anyway, we'll get to it. It is, it's odd.
I should,
But
just out of curiosity, I should have you do a deep dive into me someday, because I have, like, no social media presence. I'm curious
I
what you
probably
could
wouldn't
find.
I probably wouldn't find anything.
Probably not. I
You
bet
know?
you could find, like, where I live or something like that if you really look
Oh,
for it.
yeah, I
but-
could find
but,
that. I mean,
yeah.
but
Just out of curiosity. Research me someday, see what you find.
yeah. For example, like our subjects today. Like I know where they live. I know more than that.
Oh, yeah.
I know some things that I'm not even going to admit to knowing, not because it would get me in trouble, but because people are attempting to dox these two.
Yeah, that's
and
not
that's
cool.
not
Don't
cool.
do that.
Don't do that. I don't care who turns out to be horrible or what. Don't do it. Like just do your best to be kind. And I'm just going to, I'm going to say the facts in my own flavorful way. Like I said, the photos on Snapchat, they're always still there.
Oh, yeah.
In some way, especially text is easy to find. You can find conversations, things like that between people because they think that their chat gets deleted every time. It deletes it to where you can't see it, but
Right.
the data's still there. I had a girl once start to approach me on one of the online dating sites and insist that we start chatting on Snapchat.
Okay.
And no matter how many times I told her, like, I don't really use Snapchat, let's just text, she would just say, well, I mean, when you get on Snapchat, just send me a message here or whatever. And, so I added her on Snapchat and I'm like, fine. And then we started texting, like with the phone number, like a normal human being. And she would still try to switch the conversation to Snapchat.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, you're cheating on somebody. I know this. Like, you're trying to cheat on somebody and I want no part in it. And so I stopped talking to her.
Probably for the best.
Yeah. Anyway, our subject today, our sad birthday girl. I'm going to go into a tremendous amount of detail into this person, but first we're going to watch the TikTok video that elicited the comment calling her out for crying on camera.
Okay.
So this video went viral, and it struck me as disingenuous when I first saw it, and not just like disingenuous, but like performative.
Right.
She really seemed to want to project the idea that she was crying, and so I got a bit suspicious, and I thought, well, maybe if I research this, it could be an episode for the podcast, and then I thought, well, people really sympathize with her, and I'm not sure how much good it would do, to investigate this. Because even if the video is an outright lie, it could still be a cry for attention.
Right.
She could still need attention. And she could still need love. She could just need some support, And just because, like, we talked about this earlier, dudes are kind of raised to not cry, or at least not be seen crying,
Yeah, you can't show emotions. It's not manly.
And so, it might have seemed disingenuous to me, but it might have been a sincere form of communication from her, So I didn't want to make those assumptions about that.
Sure.
Plus, a lot of people were sympathizing with her pretty hard, and they were very supportive of her. And I'm like, I'm just going to do bad by trying to disrupt this, But the tides have turned a little bit, so I'm going to regale you and our listeners with what I'm calling the Tale of Tears. Actually, okay, that sounds like cultural appropriation. We're not going to call it that. At first, I was thinking, it could be, it's my birthday and I'll lie if I want to. But then I'm like, wait a minute. She might not be lying, Because,
Right.
and it took me a lot of reading to figure out that, and not just, a lot of people have come up with the same conclusion. And right now, if you look at people bickering online, it's almost split down the middle as to what's actually going on here. So I'm going to try to give a little bit of a foundation to what's going on. And for that, we'll go back to May 19th, 1995. A bouncing baby girl named Elizabeth Nicole, some last name, was born.
Okay.
Now, I know a lot of details. There are some things I'm going to be leaving out, including certain specific names. And obviously, I'm not going to mention any addresses, anything like that.
No.
And I will refer to some people a bit vaguely, just to protect privacy. Just because, like, if you give too much context, somebody's going to find out who it is. And people are trying so hard to aggravate these two, and it just
Don't do that.
leave them alone. Leave them both alone. And
We've all got our problems. Stay out of it.
And to Drew, Leave her the fuck alone. Anyway, sorry. I said I'm not going to take a side. I'm not going to take a side.
That's not really taking sides. That's just telling the dude to back off a little bit.
True, yeah. He should back
quit being a
his
jerk.
fucking ass off, and we're going to go over why. Anyway, as Elizabeth grew into her 20s, she was becoming very enthusiastic about social media, and she was even encouraging her mother and her grandmother to get on certain social media platforms. She is also a big fan of the Kardashians.
Okay.
And seems to sort of admire them a little bit.
Okay.
Which might make sense a little bit later. She's in her 20s. She loves to post. She also loves her family and wants them to be a part of her online life.
Mm-hmm.
So she's always online, which is why it sucks that in August of 2014, she broke her phone.
Oh, that would suck.
Yeah. But
I mean, it's even if you don't go online, it still sucks to
Yeah,
not have your phone and be
and-
like, what if you need to make a phone call?
Right, yeah.
You're
And
screwed.
it is not just social media
Yeah.
why her phone is important to her. She dates a guy named Ross who is in the military. And so FaceTime is a pretty important connection to
Okay.
have.
Yeah.
The phone becomes more important in January of 2015 when she moves from Indiana to Florida. So we're talking long distance from a lot of family and friends.
Yeah.
Which is why it sucks that in March of 2015, she broke her phone.
Mm.
So she loves being on her phone. She's even said that she can't live without it. She's reportedly, I'm going to say reportedly, she's not the best at responding to text messages. But she also gets mad when other people don't respond to text messages.
Mm.
But I feel like everybody thinks that about each other, you know,
Yeah,
at some point.
I
'cause
get annoyed if
you're-
somebody doesn't answer. I mean, it depends
Yeah.
on the person. Like, if you don't answer, I know it's just you.
Yeah, yeah. Like, and I'll bring something. I'll respond later. You know.
Yeah, you'll get to it.
But you know, because I feel like you don't spend all day every day with a person, so you don't know why they're not responding.
Mhm.
And text messages are not really conducive to our normal communication because
Yeah.
we're used to talking right back and forth.
Yeah.
But text messages, they're not a chat room. You know, it'll be there.
Yeah.
And you can
Yeah,
answer
exactly.
later.
If you send a text, it's just whenever. If it's
You'll
an
get-
emergency, I'll call you.
Yeah, exactly.
I absolutely have
Yeah.
to talk to you. Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll get to it when you get to it.
Yeah.
But she's trying to get better at responding to text messages, and she likes to talk to some of her family members on the phone and really misses them, which is why it sucks that at the kind of around the end of April 2015, she broke her phone.
What the hell, lady? Get a case or something. Jesus. But get that insurance. You need it, clearly. What the fuck are you doing in these phones?
Much later, she'll start to grow an online presence. But after a while, she deleted most of her social media. She makes another online resurgence with some alias accounts, but ends up deleting some of those. She stays in touch with a close friend she had since middle school. Possibly because she's really homesick or she really misses her friends, but she cries after a phone call with this person.
Okay.
She's known this girl since middle school, which is why it sucks when she had to move from Indiana to Florida.
That's a long way to go, yeah.
Have you been following my joke here, my running theme?
No. I'm telling you, we spend too much time together.
Now,
Mm.
people may have heard
Mm-hmm.
that she's been evicted from places.
That would suck.
Now,
Like her home? Or like
well,
a
hold on.
business?
We'll
Okay.
get to that.
Okay.
And some people may notice that right around the time when she moved from Indiana to Florida, she mentioned an eviction notice.
Mm.
But that's not actually what happened. That's not why she moved. She was not evicted. She was actually just quoting something that might foreshadow something later, but she wasn't actually evicted at that time.
Okay.
So, we've got Elizabeth wanting to go viral, and eventually she has an idea of how to become an influencer, and this may be possibly inspired by an old fanship of hers. Then later on, she may have been inspired by that close friend that I mentioned.
Mhm.
The problem is that her ideas may or may not be exactly based in reality. Now, it would be mostly speculation to try to rationalize everything she does next, but in some contexts, some of it might make perfect sense. On August 16th, 2023, Elizabeth is arrested by the Tampa Bay police on charges including 2 counts of cashing or depositing items with attempt to defraud and grand theft of the third degree, totaling $10,000 to $20,000.
Oof.
So she's charged with a felony.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is something that gets brought up or made very public by her ex. So her ex is Andrew Scott Cormier, or however he wants to pronounce it. I'm just going to call him Drew because he sometimes refers to himself as Dr. Drew or iDoc Drew.
Okay.
And he is a doctor.
Okay.
This is something that I'm not saying he does this, but this is something that I have had an eye doctor do, not my eye doctor, but an eye doctor who was a patient of mine, he was asked to wait briefly for something.
Okay.
And started just going all out saying, I don't need to be treated this way. I'm a doctor. You can get somebody out here. I'm a doctor,
So?
And so I didn't know the guy, so I go up to my partner and I was like, he keeps like demanding service right now because he's a doctor. And she rolls her eyes and she goes, yeah, an eye doctor.
I mean, is there some medical emergency he's got to rush back to? I mean, just sit down and relax. You're next in line is what you are. Shut up.
Yeah. That's oh, good Lord.
Eye doctor.
So a lot of the stuff gets brought up, right? So like the original video of her crying while she's making the cupcakes, that goes super viral.
Yeah.
And there's, this outpouring of support for her.
That's good.
And her ex-husband decides that she needs to be exposed. So, yeah, I think that might have been right. So he brings up like court records, all this stuff, and the thing is like, it's public. We can read it.
Right.
But according to the court records, Drew got full custody of both their kids, including all weekdays, holidays, and weekends. The documentation also specifies that the children must spend every night of the year with their father.
Oh, okay.
Now, because these court documents involve children, they're not fully public, but because of Drew, these documents are leaked.
Okay.
Yeah. One part, and he is not shy about just plastering his children and their names on the internet. I get
kids especially. Don't put your kids out there.
Yeah, I get wanting to show your kids off, but do it like on your Facebook, have it private.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still gonna be out. Somebody can still fucking get to it. That's
you don't need to just
half
throw
my
that out
job.
there for everybody. There's people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fucked up
throw-
people out there.
And don't throw it on a TikTok that you're trying to get viral. And that's something too. He is also trying to go viral.
He's jealous of her fame.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because she's not exactly famous. She just has a very
people know about her.
Yeah,
You said she went
yeah.
viral, and he's
Yes,
like,
yeah.
I can
And
go
that-
viral too.
And that's something that she's been trying. Well,
Yeah.
the thing is though, it's worse than that. It's probably worse than that. I'm jealous that she's going viral. I'm going to go viral too. It's probably worse than that. And I'll explain why here in a moment. But one part of the documents is it's especially striking, but not all that surprising. After learning more about Elizabeth, I'm not going to go into details about every detail of her life and why I understand certain things, because there's no point in exposing so much of a person's personal life, especially when they're going through turmoil, essentially.
Right.
But there's a section that describes what she must do at a minimum to apply for any changes or modifications to the custody ruling. Now, temporary changes can be made informally, unless there's any dispute at all. Like they have to agree to any temporary changes, and it has to be like little changes that are very temporary. That can be done outside the courts between them too. But if there's any dispute at all, the rigid legal ruling must be followed. No significant change can be made without meeting the criteria in this section. So it says the mother's completion at her sole expense, a psychiatric examination together with substantial participation in, at her sole expense, psychiatric, psychological, and or mental health treatment, or a mental health treatment program recommended by said examination, either agreed to by the parties or approved by the court. She also has to be gainfully employed for at least 6 months, and provide documentation that she has been.
Okay.
And then she has to, at least 6 months prior, she has to have maintained permanent housing where both kids are provided their own bedrooms. And again, this is all before she could even seek modifications to the parenting plan. She must also take the Parent Education and Family Stabilization course, which is not exactly significant because under Title VI, according to the Florida Statute Chapter 6121, quote, all parties to a dissolution of marriage proceeding with minor children or a paternity action that involves issues of parent or parental responsibility shall be required to complete the Parental and Family Stabilization course. So basically, any divorcee has to complete this course.
Okay.
So that brings us kind of back in time a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So after her video goes viral, right?
Mm-hmm.
All this stuff starts to get exposed by her ex-husband. And the reasoning that he's giving, he believes that her single mother crying video is deceitful. And I'm going to play for you his, and on TikTok, they do what's called a stitch. Like it's like a response video to like a previous video.
Yeah.
And I want you to tell me what you think.
So I've been said this video a lot over the last few days. People asking my thoughts and my comments on it. And before anyone says, oh, you don't know her situation or, you don't know what she's going through, well, I do, because I lived it. I'm her ex-husband, and right now I have full custody of our kids. This is our parent agreement. As you can see, I have all weekdays and weekends, time sharing with the kids, all at holiday academic breaks. And for her to get any rights back to the kids, these are the things that she needs to do. And yes, child support, she owes that. It's up to over $21,000. So she's a mother and doesn't pay child support. She was then arrested for check fraud, and during that hearing, it turned out that it was found that she stole almost $1 million from another guy. And also, she faked cancer in the past. These are scans that she would send and post on her page before. So, to sum it up, this person, for people that follow her, are giving her praise and telling her how strong and how, amazing she's doing. Well, she's really not a full-time mom. She barely has her kids. She goes out all the time. And she doesn't even have a job, even. So she just really not someone that other single moms should really be looking towards as for inspiration or anything like that. There are a lot of hardworking single moms out there, and a lot of respect to them. All I just want to say is she just isn't one of them. So hopefully everyone can see this video and know who she really is. Peace.
Okay.
Well, that's kind of sad.
Yeah. So like, what is your reaction to his video?
Well, I don't know. It's kind of an odd situation. Like, she puts that thing out there, she's sad, and I get that. But, he's kind of like, nope, she shouldn't be sad. She's terrible person.
Yeah, and that's the impression he's trying to give
Yeah.
about her and everything. Some of the things that strike me about the video, one, he's terrible at video editing.
Well, yeah,
but that's nothing, you know.
Yeah,
That
he's
doesn't-
not the one trying to be the influencer.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. But the thing is, he's a doctor essentially, and you'd think he'd be able to figure out a little better than he did, because he's like, and these are the things that she has to do, and his head's like blocking half of it, and I don't, you know. Anyway, it doesn't matter that his video editing is awful, but also has the TV blaring the whole time.
Yeah, I would have cut off the background noise,
if you
yeah.
were sending an important message, this almost felt like a knee jerk thing that he did. You know, he had made like a compilation to stand in front of, you know, and he could have given his commentary without being on screen. It's just there was so much really odd about it. Just like I found his delivery and behavior very weird, but he gets a little weirder.
Okay.
Yeah. So and so I was right to think like this guy seems a little different, but not that makes him wrong, but what the things in here that arguably make, at least in my opinion, make it difficult to trust him, is her committing check fraud, right? What does that have to do with her making a video being sad about being a single mother?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's trying to show that she's not a great person. Like,
yeah, I mean, like that. It's just like it's an ad hominem attack, you know. And it's just demonizing her for the sake of doing it. And
right.
I mean, if you are an ex-husband and you're frustrated, I get why you would do this. I understand it completely. There's just one problem with this.
Okay.
He's been doing it for years.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
He's been doing it for at least 2 years. And this is something, so there's a lot of misinformation that's going around, like especially in comment sections. So there was somebody going around saying that she's actually a widow. She's not, you know, she's not a widow. But then there were other comments going around saying that that person who said she was a widow is a sock puppet account. I could not find any evidence of that. And I found a bunch of her accounts, and I could not find any evidence that she was doing that. But I don't know that she wasn't. But I can't find evidence that she was. And she does end up having a bunch of different aliases and going by different names online. But that's extremely common for girls to do, because you don't want everybody to be able to track you down. You know, especially when you're a woman, like, you know, there are a lot of predators out there, and so you might go by different names. Like, I know a lot of girls who, like, even on their Facebook, they only go by their first and middle name, and they just don't tell anybody in real life what their middle name is. And so that way, when people try to search them with their first and last name, they don't end up finding those people. Problem is, I tracked down a whole bunch of people in this story who were doing that same thing, because they kind of, you know, everybody exposes themselves somewhere. So, and in fact, Elizabeth has a friend who does something similar to that. I'm not going to give her first name at all. And I'm going to say, so I tracked down several accounts for this friend of hers.
Okay.
And something that I found was that she was starting to go a little bit viral online by tracking a pregnancy. And she had a video of her crying about being a single mother. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
And that video, you know, gained some traction. Whereas Elizabeth had not a whole lot of attention yet, you know? So I'm wondering if she wasn't inspired by her friend to try the same thing, you know?
Probably, yeah.
But at the same time, like, she could sincerely be upset, you know? And I don't want to judge her, even if she's only doing the video for clicks or whatever.
Right.
While I find that to be a grift and I don't like it, I don't think it's like, don't attack her for it, you know?
Right.
Like, I mean, you can call her out, be like, if you really wanted to, like, if you see the video and you're like, I'm not convinced that this is legit, you know, or whatever, fine. But you probably just better off keeping it to yourself. And now, once they start trying to sell people supplements, or they try to start a non-profit, oh no. Elizabeth Teckenbrock is her current name,
Okay.
current legal name. She has a not-for-profit. It's called Fear to Fierce, and it's about empowering women
Okay.
who to not be afraid anymore and to give them a support structure. And I'm going to read a little bit from this website, and this is going to sound bad when I read from this website.
All right.
This could be a sincere effort to start a good non-for-profit. I'm not saying it's not. Okay, I'm not saying that this is a grift or a con. She has been in trouble for fraud before, but that doesn't mean that that's what she's doing here.
Right.
And in fact, if she were, she almost certainly would put somebody else's name on it. But her name is very prominently attached to this brand.
Okay.
So the website is feartofierce.org. So this was opened as a not-for-profit in January of this year. Upcoming workshops that they have, let me read what they got. Attend our monthly community workshops located in Tampa, Florida, where you can listen to guest speakers, meet supportive individuals, and gain the connections you need to reach your full potential. Please check back in August of 2024. Okay, so they don't have any events yet.
Right.
Takes a while to start up one of these things, I'm sure. Especially getting investment in it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Legal services. Our dedicated legal team is committed to providing compassionate and comprehensive support, from navigating complex legal processes to advocating your rights in court. We're here to stand by your side every step of the way. Our services encompass a range of legal assistance, including obtaining protective orders, navigating family law matters, and accessing resources for housing and financial stability. That's pretty cool that they have a legal team like that.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Oh, it says here, our legal team will be established soon. So,
All right.
okay.
It's good to have goals.
This, as of right now, and the website looks pretty and everything. It's a GoDaddy. It's a
yeah.
GoDaddy template,
Oh,
so
I mean,
it's
still
easy to put together.
looks
But
decent, yeah.
but it's a nice, it navigates well. It looks nice and everything. One thing, you remember how I said that she would almost certainly have somebody else run it and not have her name on it?
Mhm.
So she had her name on it on enough platforms that everybody knows she's connected with it. But she has a page called A Message from Our Founder, and there's a huge long message about, creating a space for women and things like that. Fantastic. I would love to support something like that.
Yeah.
But her name is nowhere on there. So I think she might have removed it, because it doesn't make sense to have this whole long letter format and not have her name anywhere. And even it says A Message from Our Founder. And I know it's her because there's a picture of her there,
Right.
but no name, so I don't know. I mean, but that's speculation. I don't know. I will say, though, that at the bottom it says copyright 2024 by Fear to Fierce Foundation. All rights reserved. Fear to Fierce is a 501c3 non-for-profit organization, Tampa, Florida. I searched through the Tampa, Florida, and there's a shit ton of them. I searched through the Tampa, Florida non-for-profits. You can search by name, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I went through there. I tried a lot of different keywords, things like that. I could not find them on there as a 501c3. And all 501c3s, they have to be public.
Right.
Now, this is a place where a lot of people are going to be like, well, that proves it, Well, the thing is, when you become a nonprofit, you can actually, even if you don't live in another state, you can go through a legal system that might be faster in a different state. Churches do this.
Okay.
So, like, for example, if you are having trouble getting 501c3 status in your state, for example, a church can go through the legal process through Texas instead, and maybe their legal system's a little more navigable, maybe they're a little more streamlined in the process, maybe they don't scrutinize as much, but you can do that legally.
Sure. Okay.
In terms of the revenue code. So like you can do that, and you're not going to be in trouble necessarily for tax fraud, but you do have to have your actual location listed, but you can go through another state. So I thought, well, what if me searching through Tampa, Florida doesn't find it, because maybe they aren't registered in Tampa, Florida. So I went through every single non-for-profit in the entire United States
Wow.
that has the word fear in it.
Okay.
And there were I need my calculator.
Well, I mean, fear is a good like trigger word kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I can
but
see that being in a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yes, and it was, but
Yeah.
I wanted to give the benefit of the doubt because I didn't want to type the full title of it and be like, oh, it's not here, and it's like, oh, well, what if they put it in as all one word, what if they
they had
word
a
it,
cute
maybe,
spelling or something. Yeah.
or they word it a little differently than they did on the website.
Right.
I would imagine that there would be some legal obligation to have your organization be called the thing that you're claiming to be 501c3, but I'm like, what if there's something different? So I went through every single non-for-profit in the United States through the IRS website that has the letters FEAR in that order. So even if it says fearless, fearsome, Cape Fear, all of it, like I went through all of them to try to find something that was similar enough that it could be that.
Okay.
And I checked all the ones that were registered in Florida, which there were a lot. And I checked all the ones that appeared to have something to do with feminism or women's protections, and none of them were associated with her. And the most similar ones were established as early as like 2020 or 2018, something like that. Now, people will think that they're being great internet sleuths, and they're going to go through like that. And I wanted to find it, just to see if I could, and I couldn't find it anywhere. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. If you go through the IRS nonprofit registry site, you can find a page that says some nonprofits have not been inducted into the registry yet from as early as 2021.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there's a good chance that they did actually get 501c3 status. It's just not in the database yet.
Okay.
So I don't want anybody being like, oh, well, I searched it and I couldn't find it, and so that proves it. No, it doesn't prove anything because the IRS is far behind on this.
Right.
If she is lying about this, I can't say I would be shocked because, of fraud being in her history. And we'll talk a little bit more about some other potential fraud as well. But then we're going to talk about how these legal cases may not be as concrete of evidence as one would think. So Elizabeth filed for domestic abuse 3 times against Drew, and all of the cases Drew won.
Okay.
They all got overturned. Now there was a case against Drew before with domestic abuse as well, and that one was overturned. But that case was overturned because Drew had a lawyer, but the woman couldn't afford one.
Oh, okay.
And so he ends up getting the case overturned,
Right.
because she doesn't have legal counsel to help her in that situation.
Mhm.
And her accusation was that he was chasing her around a kitchen table with a knife.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I mean, you should okay, if Brandy told you I chased her around the house with a knife, what would you think?
I would think you shouldn't be running with a knife. That's
No.
dangerous.
I mean, knowing me, I mean, what would you say?
I would doubt that, knowing you.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know. That doesn't sound like you at all.
So even if I were to be, and at this point, so this is another bit of misinformation that is floating around.
Right.
There's some comments saying that I heard that he married her when she was 16. That's not true.
Okay.
After this exposing video from Drew, she deleted all of her social media. Yeah,
Wow.
all of it.
Okay.
Any active social media she had was either gone or made private.
Okay.
Her Instagram was made private. A lot of other stuff was made private. Other things were deleted. But of course, nothing's ever gone. But her TikTok recently came back. So they probably have a, kind of like how Facebook, when you delete it, it's not really deleted for a while in case you change your mind. I'm guessing TikTok does something similar.
Probably.
I don't use it that way, but her entire TikTok is restored. So I think that something like that happened. She's brought it back and now it's active again.
Okay.
There's a comment going around online that that Andrew married Elizabeth when she was 16, but it was actually they actually didn't meet until 2017. And she was 25 at that time. So,
How
or,
much-
or
how much-
22 at that time. She'd be 22.
How much older than her is?
10 years. So
Okay.
he's quite a bit older. No, 9 years. 9 years. He's 9 years older than her. Quite a bit of difference. I don't know how much you got in common with a person like that.
Well, if you're 16 and the other person's 25, that's not
That's
not a
gross.
good
That's
relationship.
gross.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's weird.
But no, they didn't meet until she was 22. And then they got married the next year. Now that website I showed you, her non-for-profit website, might be the less gross of their two websites.
Oh, okay.
So he started a website trying to expose her, and this is something that is weirdly disingenuous. At the bottom of it, it says, do you remember how at the bottom of the one it said, like copyright January 2024 and not for profit 501c3. Remember how I mentioned all that?
Yeah.
So at the bottom of his website, what it reads, and here's the thing. So everybody's saying that he made the website.
Okay.
It certainly reads as incoherent as he tends to act.
Mhm.
Like it sounds like it's in his wording. But he gets one specific thing wrong that he really should know. So, this is a part I'm going to mute because I don't want, nobody seems to know about this yet. And I don't want to be the one to expose it because it's about Elizabeth.
Okay.
And it's something that if he was married to her, he should have known. So, let's mute for just a second.
Okay.
So, because of that information that I mentioned, that the website gets wrong,
Yeah.
I was somewhat doubting that this website was actually made by her ex-husband.
Right.
Because that is information he would know.
I would think so.
He
yeah.
would 100% know that.
I
And
would
this
hope so.
website gets it wrong multiple times.
I know the doctors get busy, but still.
Yeah.
He's just an eye doctor.
This is something he would be goddamn aware of.
I would think so, yeah.
But at the same time,
Mhm.
his dating life tends to involve like younger, pretty girls.
Okay.
So he may not be that interested in their lives.
Yeah,
know?
he's going for a looks trophy wife kind of deal.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
something like that. Maybe he's completely maybe he's that disconnected, but I don't see how you mess that up.
That's a
so
pretty big fuck up.
That's
yeah.
why I think that this website, or at least this part of it, was made by somebody else.
Okay.
And another reason why I think that is because later on, very recently actually, Elizabeth said that he puts all this information out there because he has people who can make videos and blog posts and things for him.
Right.
And so I think maybe there's a possibility that he didn't communicate with whoever he was having put this together, Otherwise, like if he had made this,
Yeah.
he would have gotten that right.
Right. Because his editor or whatever was just looking at pictures.
Yeah.
Okay, I get you. All right.
So like they were just scrolling through social media and they didn't actually read anything,
Gotcha.
and it's just I don't know. So
Right.
so this is another thing. Drew also thinks that he's a sleuth.
Hmm.
He thinks he's clever.
Okay.
He thinks he's investigative,
Sure.
We're going to fast forward a little bit, actually kind of rewind, I guess, to a man named Gukchen Jeniz.
Sure.
Now, Gukchen Jeniz is he is a landlord, and he's in his 70s. He's either 73 or 74 at this point.
Okay.
And he ends up signing a deal with Drew to open an optometry practice. They have a 3-year contract together. Drew gets a text message. I know for sure that Gukchen is 74 by the time this next event happens. So one day, Drew gets a text message from Gukchen, and it says that, well, it's from the landlord in general. It could be somebody who works for Gukchen. It doesn't have to be coming directly from him. But basically what he's told is that Gukchen is selling the building, but because they have a 3-year contract, the contract is going to go to whoever buys the building. Now, Mr. Sleuth, Dr. Drew, thinks that this is really suspicious. It's like, well, no, this shit happens. It's real estate,
Yeah.
This shit happens. But then what really makes it suspicious is that in a very short amount of time, Gukchen ends up in a nursing home. And that's suspicious.
Okay.
It's like, no, it's
He's
not.
in his mid-70s. That shit happens.
He probably, and he could be selling the building because he knows that that he's going he's not going to be able to take care of it anymore. He's not
Yeah.
going to be able to take care of the paperwork. He's not going to be able. He's going to be in a nursing home.
He's going to need the money to
He's-
pay for the nursing home.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Shit's not
and
cheap.
He also, he could be getting rid of assets that he's managing, and he writes out. This is so fucking stupid. This next part's so dumb. So, Drew, thinking that he is just this mega sleuth,
Mhm.
makes himself look dumber and dumber and dumber,
Oh.
and fucking Dick Tracy up.
Well,
in
I
here.
mean, this is stuff he lived through too, right? Like, he should know what's going on.
He's a fucking jackass. I mean, if he did write that website and he didn't know that one thing,
That's
then
that's
I mean,
poor sleuthing.
that's poor sleuthing. That's some poor sleuthing.
He fucked up
I
right
can't-
off the
like,
bat.
how can you get something so wrong? It's insane. So let me read from here. I've got some things to read to you.
All right.
The text message that he receives. So it says, you have 3-year lease for your office, which Jenez will assign to whoever buys the building. Shouldn't affect you other than who you write the rent check to once it's sold.
Okay.
And they misspelled right. Not that matters. I just
Kind of.
So it says, I have a prospect who would like to see the building on Friday at 3 p.m. I plan to show him several of the suites and would like you to show your office. Will your office be open around 3 p.m. on Friday for a quick walkthrough? Thanks. Reasonable.
Okay.
Reasonable to me.
Sure.
This was suspicious to Drew. Drew, he knew something was going on, all right? Something suspicious is happening here.
This is the person who's going to buy the building from.
And yeah,
from the old guy.
and this is
Okay.
this is from the landlord's realtor.
Okay. I mean, that seems fair. He's trying to get rid of the building. You want to see the building. You want to make
Yeah.
sure it's in good shape. Yeah, it seems fair. Okay.
That's the thing that would happen.
Yeah.
Drew says, was he asking for the property? And in his video, he circles this really suspicious thing here. Asking prices $825,000, 5 suites totaling 6,200 square feet. Like, that sounds about right.
Yeah,
in Tampa,
I don't know
in
realty,
Tampa, Florida,
but yeah.
like that's probably about right.
I wouldn't be surprised by those numbers.
But
Yeah.
he's like circling it like it's this big deal, and it's like, wait, where are you going with this? Like, what is going on here? So the building ends up getting given to somebody else, while Cookjen is in the nursing home.
Okay.
So this he thinks is suspicious here. He keeps putting this circle around this thing, saying that Suite A is available,
Okay.
or showing the available ones or whatever. Like, just keep circling it, and there's not really any good explanation as to what the point is.
Well, I mean, is Suite A, is that his suite? Or is
No,
that... no. Well,
no.
then it doesn't matter.
Well, so this I'll get to why he thinks it's suspicious.
Okay.
So it was July 10th when Gukchen was 74 years old. An ambulance was called to pick him up, right?
Okay.
It says to the landlord's house to take him to the hospital.
Mhm.
Yes, and okay.
Sure. Shit happens.
This call was placed around 5:15, about an hour after we were notified that he was selling the building. Yeah,
Okay.
like if you're dying, you're gonna be like, I guess it's time to sell. Like they probably were
Yeah.
talking about it for a while.
Yeah, he's probably been talking to his doctors. He knew this shit was coming, and as a coincidence, he happened to go to the hospital when he was trying to sell the building.
Yeah, and
I
so
don't
it's
see
like,
anything weird about that.
for some reason that's weird, and I don't know what he's what he's insinuating here. Like,
Yeah.
So they get a call from not from the landlord, or they get the text message not from the landlord, but from the landlord's realtor,
Okay.
saying that the landlord wants the building to be sold or whatever.
Okay. He's not saying you got to get out. Or
No,
anything.
no,
he's
not
just
at all.
saying he's just
Yeah.
notifying them that they're going to sell
Yeah,
the
and they're
building.
going to keep their contract.
Okay.
So they're going to keep their
So-
3-year contract.
So what?
Exactly. So I'm this far into the story, and I'm still trying to figure out what in the hell is his point.
Right. Yeah. What's he freaking out about?
So the reason why I'm bringing this up, this is about the area he was picked up in, and he's got like all of St. Pete's Beach and
That's
Terra
that's a
Verde.
pretty big circle.
Yeah, it's a huge area, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, this is about where he was picked up at.
So
Okay, yeah. So like near St. Petersburg. Okay, he was taken to the hospital. Mies County or Mies countryside is like not that far north from there.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, here's all the hospitals there. It's like, okay, 1, he might have had to see a specialist. 2,
Yeah,
his
maybe that
insurance
was
might have
his
taken
hospital.
a certain one.
Yeah.
Like, oh, but there were other hospitals considerably closer. Now, he was taken to the second furthest one in town or whatever.
Well, I mean, if you're not okay, there's a lot of reasons a person could have an ambulance pick them up. if you're not dying, if he was dying and they were worried about his health and they wanted to save the guy, they probably would have gone to the closest hospital. But if he wasn't dying and you got insurance and you need to go to a certain place, they're going to take you there, I would think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know exactly how that works, but
And then he
something weird to freak out about.
Yeah, I know and like I said, he thinks he's this like clever sleuth. He's not. He's knee jerking to everything, and like they're not even changing his contract. He's not. So like he's
it doesn't affect him at all.
Something's
really.
happening, and so he gets all oh, I better check this out, and he keeps doing the stupid emoji with the the thinking face or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
He has no fucking clue what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So. He says that the phone call came from somewhere over here. Okay. Now, according to the 911 records, it did come from kind of that area.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean that he was taken directly to that hospital.
Right.
He might have been taken to an emergency room nearby, and then transferred to a hospital that could give him what he needed.
Right, okay.
That shit happens.
Yeah.
Especially, and he showed how many hospitals were in the area. Mm-hmm. They probably have different specialists in them, Yeah. Not every hospital is a do-all,
Right.
And and I know this. I work in a fucking hospital.
Right, yeah.
So he's so suspicious because the hospital he's taken to is 20 minutes away. But it's like, here's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, and he puts on the where like he's like, and then I couldn't find the record of the certain ambulance taking him or to whatever place or whatever, and it's like you do know that hospitals share ambulances, right? Like they will, like other hospitals will provide ambulances.
Yeah,
I know this because I was at a convention one time, and the hospital in Rosemont ran out of ambulances. And they started borrowing them from other districts.
Well, I mean, emergency services is going to try to help you out no matter what. I mean, you can't be like, oh, sorry, you can't go anywhere because we don't have an ambulance right now.
And before anybody laughs about, or before anybody gets mad at me for laughing about that many ambulances, I can tell you the whole story sometime. But essentially, it had to do with a lot of people drinking for the first time and drinking too much. And it turned out legitimately pretty funny. So, and
everybody was fine.
I went out on the balcony and I just kept going, you get an ambulance ride and you get an ambulance ride. And it was, I don't know. It was, I mean, I'm sure they felt miserable, but like, I think they just didn't know how to deal with
that's
being
the kind of thing you
intoxicated.
get over. So. Yeah. You'd be like, oh, you're going to feel stupid the next day, but you're
going to feel like crap in the morning, but you'll be fine. Yeah. Just don't do it again. This is your body telling you not to do that shit again.
We've all done it. Hell, I did it a few weekends ago. We went to Indiana. Sorry, you gotta cut that out.
Wait.
I'm in my 40s and I fucked up. Yeah. Shit happens.
Yeah, it does. And that's funny because you never do that. Like,
no,
you never get sick.
It's the drinking game, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
The only 2 times I've ever gotten sick is when I was playing a drinking game. I gotta quit doing that
I think
shit.
that's why they renamed that game. Because it used to say the game that gets you and your friends wasted. And I have that copy. Now,
really?
Now it reads the game that gets you and your friends hydrated.
Oh no, I was wasted.
Yeah, I think they probably had some liability or something.
No, that was all me. I fucked up. I drank too much.
Yeah, you got real drunk. It was a fun night though.
Oh, yeah.
Other than you getting sick, that was fun.
Yeah, the throwing up was kind of a downer, but other than that, it was fun.
Yeah, no.
So I hear.
So our sleuth here, our detective, our Dick Tracy, if you will.
Oh god.
He fills out a public records request form for the 911.
Okay.
Right? So like 911 calls, ambulance calls, emergency calls, things like that. Those are things that you can put out a freedom of information or a public records request on some of those things. They can't tell you why a person was picked up because that's protected by HIPAA. Like you have to give them what type of call that you're wanting to get a record on. Okay. So like, for example, if it's like a vehicle crash or theft nearby, or cardiac arrest is something that you can put a request form in, but they can't tell you like, oh yeah, such and such had a heart attack, because that would be a violation of HIPAA. So there's a lot of information that you can't get out of these. But Sherlock Holmes here fills out this request form. Seems real proud of himself for doing it too.
No, sure.
And I have all these muted. I will tell you, all these videos for some reason keep blasting like Katy Perry and Nicki Minaj, and like, I mean, the music is just blaring on every one of these. I don't understand why.
That's kind of weird.
Don't-
Yeah.
So he fills out this request form.
Yeah.
Wait until he finds out what he finds out from this request form.
Mhm.
So it just sits there. And all it says is I filled out this request form. So that's that whole TikTok. Something odd here. So his channel, which has been around since 2022, is called Inventing Elizabeth.
Okay.
Something interesting on this 911 call request, or the 911 call information request.
Mhm.
Nothing is said about what he learns from this request.
Right.
He has here hashtag Inventing Elizabeth, then hashtag Rachel, hashtag Eva, hashtag Ethan.
Who are they?
Good question. We're going to get to some hashtags he includes on some later videos that might explain something about his behavior.
Okay.
He's got this document here that you can't read because he's got emojis all over it. And he's got this real suspicious face here.
Mhm.
And it says, we were unable to locate the 911 call for the location. They were unable to provide him the information.
Okay.
Maybe he's wrong about what he's looking for.
It's possible.
So anyway, he finds this really suspicious. And then sometime between July 10th and July 24th, 2018, the landlord was transported from the hospital to a nursing care facility.
Yeah.
His life and mine will be forever changed inside this facility. Drew never went to the facility, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I get the guy's life being changed, but what does it have to do with you? I still don't understand why he cares.
After he's transferred to the facility, he says, remember the building he was selling a week earlier?
Yeah.
The one he was selling before being taken to the hospital, ...
Yeah.
Now in the nursing home, he was adding someone to the building.
Okay.
Yeah. I imagine he was. This means that if he dies, she now owns the building. Yeah.
So,
Isn't
I mean,
that
that's a
something
standard
if
thing you
you're
do.
dying, isn't
Yeah.
that something
You
would
want to make
do?
sure all your stuff is going to someone or whatever.
Who is this person? And why all of a sudden would he be adding them to a building he's about to sell? Because he's fucking dying.
Yeah,
you
he might not-
moron.
He might not benefit from it, but someone should. Yeah.
So
He's not just going to give the building away for free.
he needs to, like, the thing is, he needs to find, somebody to inherit the building from him when he passes.
Mhm.
And he's almost certainly finding somebody he trusts to take over it.
Yeah.
Or, hopefully finding somebody he can trust to take over it so that he doesn't die and his family's all fighting over who gets the money or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
if you know you're dying, this is one of the things you would do.
Yeah.
Like, this is something I would do. If I owned
Absolutely.
that building,
Yeah.
I would, anyway.
I think Drew's freaking out about the wrong stuff.
It doesn't make any sense. And so, but okay, so who is this new landlord? Eva. That's hashtag Eva. She owned prestigious home health care.
Good for her.
And she was actually a tenant in the building as well. Suite A.
Okay.
Her company actually places patients into nursing homes. Let's go back and review the listing for the building the landlord was selling. Why? Why?
Well, he thinks that Eva's obviously taking this crazy old man, putting him in the...
Because Suite A is available.
Whoa.
It would appear she was about to be kicked out of her space.
Sure.
Instead of being kicked out, she was now suddenly the new landlord. Motive? ?
All right, it's a bit of a stretch, but I can see the connection he's trying to make.
It never goes anywhere from there.
Yeah.
Now, he ends up losing his lease on that building. Now, looking at the court documents, he and Elizabeth are on the hook for a lot of money for that building. And
okay.
it's expensive to rent out a public space like that.
Yeah.
It's expensive to run a business, and especially because of your landlord's, how much it costs, Essentially, he is trying to imply that she was supposed to be paying the rents on it. Like she was supposed to be the one taking care of the rent, not paying out of her own pocket, but paying with the money that they made to pay the rent.
Just in charge of writing checks and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
essentially
Okay.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Okay.
Now, because he's such a bad communicator, it is very difficult to understand what he's trying to imply sometimes. But essentially, he blames her for losing the lease. And in the court documents, it appears that he was taken off of the lawsuit against them.
Okay.
So I think he was taken off as a defendant. So it was him and Elizabeth, and I think he was taken off as a defendant. But that doesn't mean that Elizabeth was totally the one doing it. And he has these like videos that he's recording of like all you can see is her ankle in these videos.
Okay.
And he's like, oh, she's here just pretending to talk to a fake lawyer right now. That's not evidence. Like, she's typing on a computer. Like, you're not.
There's no audio or anything. You just got video of her ankles.
It doesn't.
Her typing.
Yeah, it doesn't like. Yeah, and you can't see what's on the computer screen. You just can't see anything above
That's
her fucking
stupid.
ankles. Like and so this is the point where I'm thinking, yeah, this guy's fucking weird. You
Yeah.
know, because like maybe a lot of what he's saying is true. She denies it. She says that he's mostly lying, and I kind of believe her because he seems to have this delusion that he is figuring things out when he's not. Like, there's nothing substantial about anything that he's saying.
No.
I get thinking that, a tenant leaving a building and then wanting to buy it, and that might seem suspicious or whatever, but that tenant could be buying the building,
Yeah, it could just
Like,
be a
it's-
legitimate business deal. Yeah.
Or like that tenant also could be somebody close to him.
Right.
Drew admits himself he has no fucking clue who Ava is. He says that. He says, "Who is this Ava?"
Right.
It's like that could be like his daughter for all the fuck you know.
Yeah.
Like you,
I mean, it
you
would
have
make-
no idea who this woman is.
It would make more sense to sell to someone you know because you know that they're gonna
and
do
like
you
his,
right and not
his,
screw you over.
his suspicion was her inheriting it instead of
okay.
because like they sign all these things.
Right.
And like part of the thing, he gets real suspicious that, oh, why'd they have to sign all three of these papers all at once? It's like, if you have the notary there, sign them all at once.
Yeah,
Or you're
get
gonna have
it
to
done.
find another fucking notary,
Right.
Or find another time when that one's available, or go all the way to the fucking bank, which he can't because he's in a nursing home,
Right.
And so it's anyway. So he's losing his mind over things that he thinks are clues of some kind. So he ends up accusing Elizabeth of a lot of things. And some of it, maybe it's true. I don't know. I wasn't there. But he seems to have suspicions in things that maybe aren't so suspicious.
Yeah.
And not that I'm saying that Drew is lying or anything like that, because I don't know if he is. And he communicates so poorly that it's difficult to tell if he is.
Yeah.
And so when he makes his stitch, right, this is the thing that kind of puts Drew on the map, okay? This gets reinventing Elizabeth to go viral. So he posts this, and he gets 3.1 million views on it.
Wow.
And that's because two reasons. One, her original video had gone viral. He made it something as related. Has this crazy reveal that I do know what's going on because I'm her ex-husband. And then that's supposed to be and then pops up the mug shot of her in the background, and so all this is supposed to be like attention grabbing, which it worked. I mean, even though it's poorly made, it worked. And
Yeah, you got
it
3
gets
million views out of it.
yeah, it gets 3.1 million views. And so everything starts blowing up. Now, this is something I found odd. So Inventing Elizabeth is a bit of a creative name for this guy because he doesn't seem to be particularly creative. He has, on this video, made about Elizabeth, #Inventing Anna.
Who's Anna?
I'm glad you asked, because he also tags Netflix.
So he's just tagging random ththings and hoping they'll get
Oh,
more.
no, it's even dumber than that.
Oh, okay.
So, Inventing Anna is a little like, it's like a drama miniseries type thing. It's like a kind of like one of those based on a true story type things,
Right.
And so he seems to think that this story fucking matters, which it doesn't. So he has been putting together this inventing Elizabeth thing for a long time.
Okay.
And now finally Elizabeth gets a lot of attention online. And he's been doing this for 2 years. Like he's been aggravating her for 2 years on his stupid fucking page.
Mhm.
And whether he's right or not, maybe keep it in the courts, like
Yeah.
it doesn't all need to be public. And if she starts to like grift or try to steal money from people, obviously warn somebody about that,
Sure.
So like if say her feminism website, say that the cause ends up being a grift of some kind, warn people before she starts asking them for money,
Right.
So I get that. And she is kind of asking for money with that website. Not yet, but like I'll read from. Oh, God, I gotta say one thing at a time. That's why I have a script, and half my script is missing. So anyway, so if she starts doing something that seems like she's taking advantage of people, then definitely warn them. But he is just throwing a fit. Like he hasn't even brought up her charity. He is just throwing a fit about her video of her crying going viral.
Yeah.
And it's like people are being nice to her, and he can't stand that. And it's like, I get maybe she's being disingenuous. Fine.
Yeah.
But the sentiment there is to support her and other women who could be going through what she's claiming to be going through.
Right.
She's in that case, she's not hurting anybody. Once she's exposed, it could be hurting people because then they're never going to trust anybody else.
Right.
But like she wasn't really exposed at all. It was her birthday. She is single. And she's making her own cakes. Like, she didn't have an adult in her life to make that for her and to
Yeah.
treat her special
I
on
mean,
her
it's
birthday,
a decent reason
And-
to be sad.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so like she didn't lie about any of that stuff.
No.
And she didn't say anything about like being a single mom and having my kids all the time. No, she didn't say that. She had her kids home in that video. She had her kids home at that time.
Mhm.
And so it's like, they were there for her birthday, but she didn't have anybody to take care of her birthday celebration for her,
Right.
And so that is a legitimate reason to be sad. So she wasn't being completely disingenuous about that.
No.
Now I get that a lot of people were taking it, were kind of throwing support toward her way because of how difficult it is to be a single mother, and she doesn't have her kids very often.
Right.
Which honestly, like, even though that is not as much responsibility as having the kids live with you, that also may have made her even more sad. That might have been something that exacerbated her sadness.
Yeah.
Not made it to where she's not really a mother. And so the legal documents, she is $21,000 behind on child support.
Right.
And remember how I said she gets this idea of how to become an influencer?
Mhm.
Because like she's trying to go viral and she gets this idea of how to become an influencer. Well, essentially she's putting on like a lifestyle sort of facade of being a wealthy person, like a millionaire type thing.
Okay.
And there were some points where she claimed to run her father's business, which I think is not true. And she has been trying to if you go back into the past quite a ways, you can go back as far as probably 2014 maybe, and she is already semi putting out this narrative that people are telling her that she has everything because of her father. And I don't know that her father really is wealthy or not, and that doesn't really matter to me. Like she's trying to put on this like millionaire lifestyle facade for her YouTube channel.
Mhm.
It's like fun grift, whatever. When you're doing that, yeah, you might be getting your views in a disingenuous way, but that she's not encouraging people to do bad things, and she
No.
hasn't been. She's not stealing from her viewers yet. I mean, not that she's going to, but like that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
It's been years that he's been posting these videos, and it's like, dude, chill out.
Yeah.
Like, chill out. And I get like being upset about, some of the stuff and all that, but it's just, he seems like a little bit unhinged,
Yeah.
And he tags, in that video, Netflix, Newsweek, other publications, like as if somebody's going to pick it up and like maybe he's going to sell the story rights, or he thinks he is. So he's trying just as hard as she is to like to make something out of nothing. And he has these like delusions, almost these delusions of grandeur, that one, he's smarter than everybody else and he's figuring everything out.
Nope.
And he's definitely not. He doesn't strike me as a very bright person at all. And two, he's got these delusions that this story is just so huge. And it's like, no, it's encompassed your world for 4 years.
Yeah.
And so you think it's huge. And you see that she's getting attention and you think that you can bank on it. That's the impression I'm getting. I'm not getting the impression of, I just care about my kids, or I just care about everyone else. I just want to make sure nobody else is getting grift. No, I don't see that at all. I'm just seeing him demonize her. And she has come out with some videos that are saying, I've had some people, trying to dox him and like saying bad things about him and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And like they, they're saying that they have his address and my address. And she goes, I haven't stayed in my own home for 3 days because I'm afraid to stay there. Now, this is the mind fucking blowing thing I learned, and we're going to have to mute for this, but I want your reaction afterward. Okay.
Okay.
So before you react to what I'm about to say, unmute, but don't say what I told you.
Okay.
Isn't that fucking nuts?
What are the odds, man?
I know. When I found that out, I was like, holy fucking shit. Like, this is a small fucking world.
It's kind of a decent sized place.
I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense, but like,
yeah, that's pretty random.
Yeah. I was blown the fuck away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Isn't that fucking nuts?
Yeah.
Now people are going to hate that part of the podcast. Because it's missing, but I cannot share that with the internet, and I would not in good faith ever do that.
No.
But yeah, that was fucking nuts. That was crazy.
Yeah.
And there's a little more to it than that even, but that was the moment my jaw almost hit the floor. Like when I saw that, I was like, no fucking way. Like, I already knew I knew more than other people, but when I found that out, I was like, holy fucking shit. But yeah, so like in terms of the dispute, and she is afraid to stay in her own home. She is saying that his accusations against her are not true.
Yeah.
If that is the case, she definitely could find a lawyer who would represent her for slander, but she did sign some court documents that she thought if she signed them, he would leave her alone. And she signed some court documents outside of court just to make it over,
right.
And he hasn't stopped. So she's telling people to just leave him alone, just, ignore him, whatever, quit, like she goes, I appreciate that you're trying to support me. She goes, but the way to do it is not to harass him.
Yeah.
Whereas he is encouraging people to harass her. And other people have figured out like their home addresses and stuff, which the thing is, some of the addresses you people found are not current. So, I know you guys think that you're real clever online, but no. Yeah. So kind of fucking complicated.
Sounds like it.
Anyway, thank you all so much for listening. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.